channel.
Hey, you know what time it is?
What time is it, man?
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The Beatdown, the segment and channel where two worlds collide. I am your host, Flash. This is my co-host,
Mr. J. What's going on, guys? We are back at it again with another one for you. And we would like to remind you, if you like this content or these videos, go in the section below. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah. And without further ado, we are continuing on with our tournament. So, this round's going to be an interesting round. I'll be representing DC Comics' Lobo. Alright, let's get into the super brief origin story, shall we? It's really super brief actually, but it's real easy. Lobo is the main man. He's a bounty hunter from a galaxy cosmic level. He likes to go hunting, and he does this in order to feed his flying dolphins. And that is the super brief origin story of Lobo. Okay, let's get into the powers, abilities, and feats. Kazarian physiology, I hope I said that right. Superhuman strength, superhuman stamina, pretty much the superhero cocktail. Immortality, invulnerability, superhuman speed, self-sustenance, regeneration, biofission. Now, biofission is interesting. This is where people are not familiar with, because I wasn't familiar with it, but if a drop of blood falls out of his mouth or out of his nose, anywhere, and falls to the ground, he can make another Lobo out of it. So he can make another copy of himself just based on that blood. That's crazy. Thermal immunity. That means he can travel through the coldest places on Earth, the hottest places in the planet. It does not bother him. Possession. Genius intellect, tracking, and an expert combatant. All right, so let's get into the end game. So let's talk about the vulnerability to thermal. That does come in handy. A symbiote doesn't really do well with heat. So let's say they get into a fight somewhere with a lot of hot, heated pressure. Lobo will be able to have the tolerance level to fight in that field. Unfortunately, Carnage not going to be able to have that much of a tolerance. Eventually, his body, his symbiote's going to give, and then the human host is either going to get burned or he's going to die based on the Carnage suffocation of it. But at the end of the day, Lobo again has the tolerance. Or let's say they get into the super coldest place on Earth. I do believe Lobo still has the advantage there too, because I do believe eventually that liquid is going to turn solid. I mean, you're somewhere super cold. Eventually, it's going to turn into a solid material. And I do believe from that point, Lobo could just break him into little pieces in that type of way. All right, so another thing to consider is Lobo's mechanical weaponry. He's capable of inventing a lot of impressive things that could annihilate Carnage out of existence if he wanted to. He has a weapon that can destroy the planet. He's capable of creating a weapon that could wipe out Carnage. Another thing to consider is that Lobo learns about his opponents and eventually will figure a way around his opponents. So I do believe enough time with Carnage, he'll be able to invent a device that can counter maneuver Carnage's skin, or maybe have him remove away from his host in some way, because let's face it, Lobo does have the intelligence and the mechanical capabilities to do something like that. All right, so let me just talk about the final point in this situation, because I want to say that Carnage might have some advantages because he has the ability to conjure weapons out of his, hands and everything like that. But again, Lobo can create weapons out of thin air, out of anything, out of pretty much garbage. So give him anything, he can make it into a weapon. He can make it into an explosive weapon. He can make it into all kinds of weapons. So on top of that, Lobo also has speed too. So speed's going to help him kind of invent the weapon he needs to in a moment's notice against Carnage. Another thing to consider is Lobo is very strong and capable of taking punches from Superman himself. And Superman can lift an entire planet practically on his own. He can bring a planet together if he wanted to. The guy is a cosmic level being, which means that taking blows from Lobos or getting hits from Lobos does say something in that way. So speed, strength, the fact that he can pull a planet himself, I do believe he could rip Carnage apart. He could find the weapon to kind of weaken Carnage's, strength. obviously figuring out he's a symbiote, being able to use the psionic weapons to kind of take him out and drown him out of that, or he can burn him with heat. Either way you put about it, I do believe Lobo has less weaknesses than Carnage in this essence. So I got to give it to, and if Carnage even drops any kind of blood off of Lobo, he's just going to make another duplicate of himself, a copy of himself, which means that the more he cuts him, the more Lobos are going to show up. And then eventually he's going to get overwhelmed, and then there you go. Lobo wins it, hands down, for the count.
The main man's contract's complete. Easy, fam. Your world's your world.
Okay. Our contestant today will be Marvel's Carnage.
That is not Venom.
Super brief origin about Carnage. He and Eddie Brock were cellmates. Eddie was reunited with the Venom symbiote, and when he broke free, he left a piece of it there. That piece bonded with Cletus's blood. Cletus had a cut on his hand, so that's how it bonded with him. And that's also why it gives him his red appearance. And that is a super brief origin of Carnage. Cletus Cassidy is the host. He is extremely sadistic, extremely psychotic, definitely convicted of 11 murders that they know of. That's why he was in prison. There's one thing about the Clintar. That is actually the race of the symbiotes that possess Eddie and Cletus, as well as, the other symbiote-based heroes in Marvel. They actually have the ability to possess just about anybody and take over pretty much the brain. They can completely take you over, almost effortlessly. The Venom symbiote was able to take over Thanos. So if they can do that to someone like Thanos, I want to say they can do this to Lobo. And I will explain why I've mentioned that later when I get into feats and stuff like that. But going into some of Carnage's abilities, superhuman strength. He has superhuman strength, stamina, speed. Maybe he won't be as fast as Lobo, but I want to say the whole thing with Lobo being able to conjure weapons out of thin air and so on and so forth, I want to say he still has to construct them. He still has to put them together. I don't know if he exactly possesses enough speed to put this thing together and assemble it before Carnage is able to stab him or slice him or whatever. Because Carnage, the symbiote is really only limited by the host's imagination, really. Especially the Carnage and the Venom symbiotes, they can do a lot more than has been shown on the movies. Like, Carnage can fly. So
yeah,
if he so chooses, he can stay in the air and just kind of circle Lobo, maybe think of a strategy. It's not going to get him away. No, it's not. But it'll at least keep the distance in his favor at the time. But Carnage is definitely going to have to dictate where the fight goes. He's going to have to keep it somewhere where the symbiote won't be as effective. Another thing Carnage is able to do is he has 360 perception. So there's really almost no way Lobo's going to be able to sneak up on him, or him not see the attacks coming. So with that in mind, like I said, I think Carnage, if he has superior speed, use that. Keep it in close. Don't allow Lobo to assemble any weapons. Now, I actually like that ability that he has to where he can sprout little spawns of himself. Because what I'm thinking of, now this is somewhat going into my end game. I'll get into it right now. I want to say at least maybe 2 or 3 of Carnage's facts. He was able to outmuscle Venom and Spider-Man. He's also defeated Venom, Spider-Man, Man-Wolf, Deadpool. He was able to beat Deadpool somehow. And he's survived being ripped in half by Sentry. If any of you don't know who Sentry is, he is pretty much Marvel's equivalent to Superman. one
Right
of the one of the equivalents that they have. Yeah, he was ripped in half, and he survived that. He has also survived being smothered by a gene bomb. I don't exactly remember how powerful exactly this bomb is supposed to be.
So that sounds pretty massive, though. I mean, you call it
Basically-
G-bomb.
Gene.
Oh, gene bomb. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I want to say this definitely could have killed Carnage, but somehow he was able to survive. So he's definitely able to take a blow, for sure. Especially about Carnage, one of the downfalls is of having to fight him. He can pretty much be resurrected at almost any time, as long as there is even the smallest piece of his DNA. The Carnage symbiote can come back, because the Eddie Brock and Venom symbiote, they're bonded, but they're, it's an outside thing, He's in Eddie's head, yes, but Carnage is in Cletus's blood at almost all times. He didn't bond through him through the outside. He bonded through him through a cut or wound on his hand. Which
true.
I want to say makes their bond a little stronger and a little bit difficult to break. So I want to say Lobo kind of has his work cut out for him in this case. Especially now going into the end game, like I mentioned earlier, Lobo, when he is cut, he sprouts little spawns of himself. If Carnage is able to somehow possess each one and mentally take them over, he'll have an army. And I don't think that Lobo can survive that. An army of Carnages, maybe one, maybe even two. You know what? I'll even give him 3.
But an army?
But if Carnage just continues to take over his little replicants and just use them against him, I want to say the main man is going down in this fight.
Okay, that's good, man. That was good. That was good. All right. But as always, guys, it's not up to me. It's not up to my boy here. It's up to you guys. So, if you guys like my argument, you know what you can do? You can hashtag Lobo. And if you like my boy's argument, what can you do, brother?
Hashtag Carnage.
And as always, No Press fam, we really appreciate you guys. Catch you guys later. Peace.